I think we are going live now. I pushed. All right, you're live. Thank you, YouTubes. Cool. I'll do my intro again real quick because I was talking for 2 minutes before I noticed that I needed to click one more button. Hello, my name's Brayden. Happy Friday. We're starting casual. We're starting fun. So if you're watching, if you're interested in what we're having to talk to today, it is Colorado policy. It is Colorado news and positive change. And so we're using this show as a way to break down barriers for the everyday person to learn about how these systems work and the things being discussed to be turned into law and changed at the state level, which if you live here in Colorado will maybe not immediately impact you, but impact the future of the state and what is possible, and from the economy to the environment to public transportation and so many things. Let me throw up onto the screen our schedule for today while I do a technical check. So hold on 1 segundo. So that looks good there. Let's lower that. We have chat live, so I can take a look at anything people want to say and throw our way. And let's plug in these headphones. It all looks pretty darn good. We'll go here. Let's play this song next. All right. Actually, let's test music to audio. You can't really hear it. So I'll turn up the music. Let's just wait 1 more minute while we finish this technical check. There's a little bit of a delay, so hang on here with us. That sounds pretty good. All right. All right, and then I'll open up the live chat so that is something. Hello, YouTube. Cool. And I am an admin of my own page. Move the music over here. So perfect. All right, happy Friday, everyone. This is the Colorado Policy Angles Show. And as the show and name entails, we're here to talk about policy change here in Colorado. Thank you for showing up, and thank you to those interested in our live show and our videos after the fact. On our YouTube channel, we work to create segments and videos from our live show, from other things I am working on, to break down barriers of access for everyday people and everyday Coloradans. And the political system is very complicated, and it's honestly taken me years to get to a point where I really understand some of the ins and outs. And so most people don't have that time and will get overwhelmed, disengage. But local policy and local politics really does impact local economies and local people. And so, let alone the problems with the larger federal issues that we can see and that we would love to see changed, but sometimes it's the local level that we can have the most direct impact. And so a number of the segments we put together for this show and on our YouTube page are to help make things easier for those that want to use their voice for change and want to learn about these things, but sometimes don't know where to start. So, Community Driven is a social enterprise with the goal of making positive impact easier to engage with, make news around leaders and ideas that can have an impact in your life, and allowing us to have a discussion together about what the best solutions are. And so let me show you a bit today about what our schedule is. Cool. So we started off about 30 minutes ago. Actually, we did a pre-show on Facebook where we were going through some of we were just saying hi, going through some of our technical aspects to prepare, and moving here into the larger YouTube show. My guess is we'll be live for about 2 hours. Sometimes it's hard to know. I thought we were gonna be like 90 minutes to 2 hours last time, and it ended up being closer to 3. But of course, you don't need to stick around the whole time. We have these different segments, so if any of these topics today are interesting to you, if you want to chat about healthcare, the environment, housing, want to learn about what a regenerative future looks like, maybe even what regenerative means, talk about public transportation, talk about this show just a little bit more, and then overviewing lobby days. I did do that agenda in reverse, and I didn't mean to, but so yeah, it'll be the flip of that of our actual flow. But excited for anyone here live or after the fact. So let me just move that tab over. This song's a bop. Okay. Public comment. Close some windows. And I think we're ready to go. And then I have the live chat up. Perfect. All right. So, how are y'all doing? Let me actually stand up. I was sitting down. My back was hurting a little bit earlier, but, and if it does so again, I can sit down. But let's stand up. One of the perks of having a standing desk. I'm gonna move my chair. And then just move this just a little bit more. Perfect. All right. So, what's a good song to start a new topic? So, this one, not so much. Let's see. Okay, so how I like to do the show is split up into segments and topics. That way, it's easier to cut up later, and also people get a sense of what our focus is. So, our first topic, I will wait till my dog's done barking because I want a clean intro and someone's getting ready to go to the grocery store. Tee-hee-hee. I think he'll be a chill pup. All right. So, first topic of the day. Let me switch to full screen for a moment. And people are making some noise, but I don't know if you'll be able to hear that on there. Let's see. All right. So, hello all. We're gonna be talking about what is a lobby day. Part of how politics gets done at the state and local level is that your local legislators propose bills, they go to different committees, and then they get voted on. And one of the things that helps influence that process is bringing in constituents and people to tell their local representatives what they think on certain bills. And so here in Colorado, one of the ways that happens is through political lobby days, where an organization, typically around a certain topic like the environment, and with 350 Colorado, will pick a day and tell its members and its volunteers to show up to have a day where they get to have a more involved part in the process with experts and skilled volunteers who have been around before. And so it ends up being this really good way that if you're new to the whole process, you can get involved. And so last year I went to a number of these different lobby days. I talked to my local representatives, and so before we get too much into the legislative session this year, I wanted to share more about these lobby days so that you can consider signing up for one. A number of different organizations covering a number of different issues host lobby days, and so this is more of a general analysis of what goes into one of these days, and then I will let you then decide if it's something that you're interested and able to do and which organizations you sign up to volunteer with. So I have some pictures. We're gonna do this a little bit like a photo essay, as I have pictures from last year's lobby days. Let me turn down the music just a bop and put on something that can be very clean background music. I think this song fits that bill. So, audio check. All right. So what goes into a lobby day? Now, typically it starts around 8 or 9. It's a earlier start so that the group can be done by the afternoon, maybe around 1 to 2 p.m. And either you're there for the whole time, maybe you email and say that you only can make it for part-time, and then the organization will work with you to let you know where to start and where people are at any given moment. Typically, lobby days start off at one of the churches or restaurants or areas near the state capitol. And you meet up, you discuss some of the key bills that the organization is fighting for or against. There's typically a list, there's fact sheets, let me pull up some pictures. Here we go. Ooh, wrong screen. So the day starts off, you gather, and you see a presentation about some of the bills today. Typically, there's a number of speakers that come through. You learn about some of the nuanced points, and you take notes so that you can add your voice to the research brought. This is important as politicians want to hear from their constituents. So, and that is me from a lobby day. I want this. I wonder if I have a picture of small groups. So typically then once you show up, and here's a picture of another lobby day. I went to 4 last year. Looking at this, I only thought it was 3, but looking back at these pictures, seeing that I actually went to 4. I went to 350 Colorado's Climate Lobby Day. I went to Sierra Club's Climate Day, Lobby Day. Colorado, One Colorado, which is an organization around LGBTQ plus issues, and then Colorado Jewish Alliance for a Climate Future? For Climate Action, I actually think is the full name, CJCA. And after your presentation of some of the bills, some of the key politicians or talking points, you are put into a group with a leader who will help walk you through the next steps and help be there as a supporting role. Because the step after this is going and walking to the state capitol to try to get some time with the group's local politician. And sometimes your whole group has the same politicians and you don't have to try to get meetings with multiple people, but sometimes you do need to do that. And so there's a picture in here. Here is me and our groups walking in towards the Capitol. Sometimes you make a quick stop outside to do a press conference or rally to get that team picture together in front of the Capitol. This one Colorado meeting, Governor Polis showed up with his dog and said some words to the group, joined in for some photo ops, and then from here got back into our groups to go inside. So I didn't think to grab pictures of inside the Capitol, and of course if you are new to the Capitol building, you will be with a group leader. It's a very pretty building, and there are 2 steps or 2 ways you can try to get time with your local elected officials. This is outside of the main House chamber, and so and the guy in the jacket, actually I don't think it's him. I think there's typically a sergeant at arms who you can go up to. He will, you can hand him a piece of paper, or he'll give you a piece of paper. You'll write down the name of the person you want to talk to. It'll go up to them, and typically then they will come out to talk to the group. And then you get a few minutes talking about some of the politics or the policies your group is working on. And I am now just realizing I forgot to push the button where I screen share. I got too into it. Okay, I think I gotta start over. Luckily, the only live viewer is me. Alright. Reset to the picture sharing time. I mean, I guess I could do it in post-production, but alright. Alright, we'll start this part over. We'll work to be more concise. We'll work to do it again. We'll work to do it again. Okay. I'm excited for the point where I do have multiple live viewers and chatters, because if someone was like, hey, you're not sharing your screen, I would have saw that on the chat, but I just need to be extra vigilant. So where do I start again? I forgot where. Okay. I'm gonna number some of these pictures so that. Okay. I'm gonna bring the music down a little bit for me. Alright. Alright, from the tippy toppies. Do I just do it again? The full thing? Self? Okay. Yeah, so yeah. Alright. Alright, hello everyone. Welcome to learning about what is a political lobby day. I had the privilege and opportunity to go to 4 of these last year, and is a great place to get involved in the political process if you are new to things or you just want to add your voice to the larger movement and push on a certain topic. These lobby days are organized by different nonprofits and groups who typically have a certain policy area that they focus on. For example, 350 Colorado has a climate lobby day where work to push forward and support or even speak out against certain bills coming through the state legislature. Now, I had on my video last week an overview of how the state rulemaking and policy making process works from a zoomed out perspective. These lobby days are more of a tool and strategy that's used in that process to show politicians the energy and ideas of their constituents and leaders in the state. And so I have a number of pictures from these different lobby days I went to last year that I am going to share with you all so that you have a better understanding of how a lobby day happens. Now, typically you end up meeting earlier in the day around 8 or 9 a.m. You get breakfast. It starts off with a presentation on some of the important bills that you're going to be speaking on that day. Now, if that seems intimidating, don't let it be, because on these lobby days, you are put into groups with others. And so here's one of those pictures of a group meeting, having that presentation of the bills. And as you show up, you let the group know where in the state you come from and your experience level. And so you are paired with people who have experience, as well as people who live in your area, so that you can work together to talk to the politicians that represent you. At least here in Colorado, our political process has many different points where the everyday person can get involved, and typically the state legislators will take time out of their days to speak to you, listen to you. You typically get pieces of literature that you can hand them, and that also help cover the bills and talking points and research that goes into this. And so here's just another, you typically start with a presentation with multiple speakers, get energized, have some coffee, and you are then put into these groups. So here's a picture of us getting together as groups to head on down to the Capitol building. Typically, before you head in, you take a moment outside the Capitol building steps for a photo, a lobby day photo. Sometimes, like this one, you will have guest speakers come out to the group. And so this lobby day by One Colorado, Governor Jared Polis came out and spoke to us, joined in for some photos before the group went back into the larger team, and lobby day attendees and volunteers go into those smaller groups and get ready to go inside the Capitol building. Your team leader will have a list of the politicians that represent you and the people in your group. And so the next step is to try to get time with those politicians by pulling them off the House committee floor. And so this is a lobby. This is the lobby of the lobby day, in which there will be a sergeant of arms, a person who you and your leader can give a note to, who will have the name of the legislator and who your group is. And then that legislator will have the opportunity to come on out. Typically, they are willing to, they have a sense of the calendar for the day. And so they can come out and take a few minutes to speak to you on these issues. I remember my first time, this was a little bit more nerve-wracking. I was able to speak on some of the issues, but not others really well. And so having that leader with me, as you can see here, there's 3 different people here to talk to this representative and help have that conversation. But sometimes they're not in that House chamber. Sometimes they don't come out. And so what you'll do then is they have an office and they have a legislative aide who, I don't think I have pictures of that, but it's sometimes a separate building, it's sometimes in the main building, but you will walk and try to get time with the legislative aide or them in their office for to have that conversation with the elected official. Just scanning through some of these other ones, I was also at Sierra Club's lobby day, and you can see some of the different small groups here learning about bills from a volunteer. you can see that sometimes even in March, it will be a snowy day, but that doesn't stop activism from happening. I thought this isn't a video. It is March, and still it snows. And then, yeah, sometimes you meet up at different spots, but it's typically near the Colorado State Capitol. You get your info, you get a chance to discuss together at the front side, and then after everyone goes through the process, you can often get a lunch provided, and you do a discussion and debrief. I don't think the lunch part always happens, but I think at least half of the ones I went to, I didn't stick around for the full lobby days, some of them last year, but I know at least half of them had lunches. And so, it is a really cool way that us here in Colorado can push to see policy changes happen, and it is really telling when elected officials do not meet, because so many of the politicians are willing to meet with people and constituents that if someone avoids the group, it really is telling where they stand on an issue if they're not even willing to have the conversation. Which I have had before. I've had, even though they are there, I've been pushed to have a meeting with legislative aides, and I've gotten the runaround before. But most of the time can have that meeting, and politicians are super excited to see people from their district want to get involved and have information to share. And so throughout the process, there are other pushes like social media and ways to have that impact together. Am I missing any part? Yeah, there's typically afterwards, your group comes back together with the larger group. There's a debrief, and by 2 or 3 p.m., you're heading off your own way. There are lobby days for many different organizations and policy areas. And so if you like the environment, if you like and want to see stronger protections for LGBTQ plus groups, those are the areas I've gotten most involved with. But there are policy days and lobby days for young people and many more issues that are organized and put together. Cool. And here is a picture from one of the days I went. Typically it's a good day for community. It's a good day to get involved and feel like you had your voice heard and you're participating in the civic process. And overall, it's a great step to getting involved in the first place, because there's so many experts and people who have done this multiple times who are willing and energized even to help new people. So consider a lobby day. There are many coming up, and let me know if this video helps you consider getting more involved with this process. All right, so we'll circle back to our agenda for today. Lobby days overview complete. Cool beans. Let's play a different song. Keep it fresh, keep it interesting. Okay. Next on our channel, so last week we did some predictions of things we thought we would see happen through the legislative session, more from an outside view of what policies we thought might get passed, what kind of things would happen at the Capitol, and I was thinking throughout this week, we didn't really take a chance to do predictions around what we think might happen with this channel and with this show. So we're gonna do that briefly. Let's go here. Let's open a new doc. 2024 predictions for our live show and channel. Now, in some ways, these are predictions or goal. I mean, in some ways, maybe some of these are goals. It's really hard to predict how well your channel might do, what kind of feedback and engagement you might get. I'm still very new to this whole live streaming process, and though things like the video editing is getting smoother and I plan to do more marketing and outreach, it can be hard to do predictions, but I thought this would be a fun little place to do some goal setting together, and give you an idea of what I want to see out of this show and channel. I was watching a video the other night about live streaming in general and how everyone's nephew and niece is looking at it as something they potentially might want to do or get more involved in. And there's a lot of people out there making content, but in actuality, the super successful people doing it who are making lots of money is like a fraction of the people doing live streaming in general. Streamers will consistently bring in 20 to 40k live concurrent viewers, whereas Mr. 10,000, so the 10,000th biggest streamer, is only actually getting about 260 concurrent live views. And so even if I want to be just like the top 10,000 in this field, and typically live streams are more on the gaming side, but gaming art, there's some people who do it with politics or news, but setting proper expectations, proper predictions, I don't think says YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. As such, viewers will experience buffering. I wonder if that's a setting or just my internet. Let's see if it's just stream status or... I think it's just internet. We're gonna give that a moment. Sorry if it's buffering right now. Okay, so predictions. I don't think in the first few months of really doing live streaming will I become in the top 10% or top 10,000 of streamers. So dialing back goals, predictions for this show and our live streams is two numbers is top concurrent viewers, so where is the peak, and then average concurrent viewers. And so in 2024 want to reach ... We'll bold that. We'll bold it. We'll put a line. I think it'd be awesome to get up to 50 people live at a time. The most I've ever been able to get at a time is 10. I think I got around 10 or 12. I did a live stream 2 years back on my birthday in which we got up, I know, to at least like 8 or 9 using my personal Facebook channel. I think we can do better here. It'll take some time building up our audience, getting our name out there, and who knows if Friday evenings is a good time to live stream. I thought it'd be work with my schedule. It gives me through the week to put together our programming, and then most people are off work, and so there is this aspect there that I thought it might be a good time. I plan to do other live streams to engage different audiences, but for this show, I would love to get up to 55 people. 55 people watching live that are able to participate in our chat, that are able to share with us their opinions through polls and comments. And I think longer term, as we build this show and this infrastructure, we're going to be able to do some really cool stuff with a live audience around politics and having a discussion with others live where we can engage the audience. Now, what is the number that makes more sense for us to work towards? That is bread and butter people willing to stick around for about an hour or two to talk about policy issues on a Friday. Now, I think one of my goals will be to make things concise so that people don't have to spend too much of their time on Fridays. So maybe that's a goal, is stream average length is 90 minutes. I think I am happy personally to go longer. Some Fridays I will have plans, some Fridays I will not. And sometimes, if it's a very important topic, really do need to be giving more time than typical media does. That said, this format for those longer conversations, we might just need to branch out. And so I don't want them to dilly-dally and go on for too long. But average concurrent viewers, what about a dozen? Do I think I get up to a dozen? I mean, some streamers stream to about 2 to 4 people for like a year before they get their legs beneath them, before they really start to grow an audience that understands them, trusts them, and wants to show up consistently. So let me bring that down to 8. If this goal-wise, this number is higher, but prediction-wise, 7? I want to say, who knows? But we'll put 7 there. 7 people. But to be honest, I feel like if we get some interactions with politicians, we get some live discussions going, this number could really be much higher, and our top number could be much higher. But we're gonna taper down some of these predictions, bring it down. And anything else show related? I think this is possible too. A YouTube short. YouTube short reaches 10K views. I had my first 1,000 view short this week. The trend is increasing. And it's very easy that if you have a viral moment, that this can actually be just like really high. So I think for us, that really high can be a 10K view short. YouTube videos that are 10 minutes to 30 minutes. Stream clips that become YouTube videos get 3,000 views. I wonder if it's like if views are more important here or if time watched is more important here. Because a view, someone clicks it, maybe they're interested in the topic, maybe they stick around for a minute, but do they watch a good portion of the video? And so I think the better goal and prediction is how many total minutes watched do these longer YouTube videos get? And so I typically create 3 to 5 segments for our live stream show. And those segments become these YouTube videos. And so I think that most people will only watch a fraction, but some people will watch the whole video. So we get 3,000 minutes watched. So that's probably a pretty lofty prediction and goal, but I feel pretty good about that. And then we live discussions with politicians. I'm gonna say 5. Videos from politicians. And I guess I should look at how many Fridays are there between now and then. So there's 4, 8, 12, but it ends early May. So there's only about 10 more weeks. We're gonna go live discussion with politicians 3, but videos from politicians to watch. We're gonna make this one 8. I actually think this part might take off, but it's really hard to say. Videos from politicians to watch, 8. Videos from lobby groups slash non-profits to watch. We're gonna say 8. Which just means that in the next 2 weeks, gotta get this part rolling where there's at least one of these a week, which I think is very reasonably able to happen. And then we're gonna do live discussions, lobby groups, nonprofits. 3. We're gonna put 5. And then any last predictions? Oh, sponsor segments. Get 5 sponsors. Get 5 sponsors to sponsor segments. Get 5 sponsors. 4 live show. And 3 for edited videos. And I probably should actually switch these because it's probably easier to get a sponsor for an edited video than it is a live show. I guess it really just depends where the audience number. We're just gonna put 3 and then we're gonna put 3. So this gives me about a month to build up the show's following, build up the show's audience, and then start pitching to groups and people to sponsor segments. And I think I'm gonna start small on the ask side, like for a few $100s, or for $100 or $200, we will do a sponsored shout out, and maybe we'll package some of this together. Maybe we'll do some personalized content with them. But to making this show work in the long term, do need to find those partners that are sharing our values, sharing the direction that this show is going, and can support us, because love to be able to not only help compensate some of the time I put in through the week and the production of the show so that it's a better work-life balance, but even getting producers and editors to help us build out this more. And those are our 2024 predictions for the show part itself. I typically sometimes will do a segment like that can bring in wider audiences, and so potentially working with sponsors to put together a segment that they're interested in could be a really cool direction to go. It helps, I think, as long as the values align. I think that is the biggest thing, is that I'm not like, oh hey, oil gas lobby, you're the person willing to give me this money, let me do like a 20-minute fluff piece, but really doing something that is more grounded into being a people and community-centered organization, and working with groups that also are trying to have a positive impact, but just might need additional or want additional eyes or support in something they are working on. And so that will then allow us as an organization to put more and more into building our channel and the projects that we are working on this year. And so I think these are good goals for the year, and we can move on to our next segment. We can, at the last show, at the end of the legislative session, we can reflect back on these predictions and see how it all went. Now, for our color policy angle show, we're transitioning into the part now where we're talking through policy. And so we have a number of things we want to look at, from public transportation to regenerative policy platform, and then we're going to touch base on healthcare, environment, and housing before we log off. And so I believe I have my tabs open already. I can close out of this one, and then that one. And so we're going to start with transportation. We're going to start with reading this opinion column piece I Haven't had a chance to read it yet. I saw the headline and I saw that the person who produced and wrote this opinion piece is Jessica Campbell Swanson, who is an Arapahoe County commissioner and a friend and acquaintance of mine, who I got to see them support different candidates of color and do great work before they got their role as county commissioner. So I'm super excited to see what they have to say about public transit and what the state can be doing to support programs. And so, expanding free fare program, we'll stop the music, we'll pause our melodic jazz so that we can do a deeper dive into this topic. Now, okay, so opinion. Colorado legislators can help transform. Let me do this really quick too, so that everyone can see the full article. Make me a little bit smaller, Colorado legislators can help transform how we travel with permanent funding for public transit's free fare programs. It'll help us in a number of areas, from pollution to equity. So for the past 2 years, the Colorado legislature, through SB 22-130 and HB 23-1101, approved $28 million annually for free transit fares in 16 transit entities across Colorado. State leaders chose ozone season, June through August, for this program to encourage ridership in order to reduce the number of cars on the road and emissions during the worst ozone months of the year. The program has been successful in increasing ridership and decreasing greenhouse gas emissions. The program, in some form or another, should be expanded and made permanent. Without legislative action, the program will end in July. So you'd get, I guess we'd get June, but none of the other months. In 2023, RTD's Zero Fare for Better Air program increased ridership by 22% and reduced greenhouse gas emissions by 3,000 tons. The program works. However, this is a drop in the bucket towards hitting our state goal of annual transportation emissions reductions of 12.7 million tons by 2030. We've only scratched the surface of what this program could achieve and the impact it needs to make. To see more substantial reductions in greenhouse gas emissions, we must permanently incentivize use of public transportation and expand those incentives. Reducing emissions is a vitally important goal in itself. As a Arapahoe County Commissioner, I take my job of protecting human and environmental health seriously, which is why I prioritize effective climate policies. Our summers are getting hotter and severe weather events are more common. In Colorado, where vehicle exhaust is the biggest contributor to planet warming emissions, prioritizing getting cars off the road to reduce emissions is a simple path. There are other benefits for free fare programs. A free public transit program promotes equity and social justice by ensuring that everyone, regardless of their financial situation, has access to transportation. That makes it possible for Coloradans to reliably get from home to work, school, medical appointments, etc. Increases economic mobility and security, and promotes Colorado values like self-determination and opportunity. Additionally, when drivers choose public transportation, we reduce traffic congestion and parking woes. This in turn reduces stress, which is good for Colorado's collective mental and physical health. Fewer vehicles also decrease wear on roads, which reduces tax dollars needed for infrastructure repair. And again, we need sizable and permanent reduction in cars on roads to truly reap the benefits this change offers. While we know the service frequency, reliability, timely routes, and safety are also key in growing ridership, there's a positive relationship here. If funding for the free fare program were permanent and ridership continued to increase, transit agencies would add service to meet demand, providing more robust schedule options. As service and reliability increase, more residents will be inclined to use public transit. Our site, here, hold on one sec. Our state has a window of opportunity to transform how we travel, and the time to invest in public transit and free fares is now. As gas vehicles are phased out, public transit needs to be a viable option for those who cannot afford an EV or who see the transition away from gas vehicles as an opportunity to change their mode of transportation. But that requires investment in increasing ridership and service now so our system can absorb the influx and meet potential riders' needs when they're ready to switch. We know that free transit is not free, and public transit alone will not solve our climate crisis, but every solution to that crisis will require investment. Electric vehicles and micro-mobility options like electric bikes and scooters are also part of the solution, but also have required subsidies and rebates to be financially feasible for most. My hope for this legislation is that my colleagues at the state will see the free fares program positive environmental impacts and how it aligns with other legislative priorities around land use and social land economic equity goals, and that will make permanent and expand the investment into these programs, be it by adding months to the program or making fares permanently free for low-income, veteran, student, disabled, younger, and or older Coloradans. Making the free fare funding permanent and something potential riders can rely on is key to expanding the ridership on public transit. There is already a bill, SB 24032, to make the program permanent and expand free fares to youth 19 and younger year-round. The bill's $14 million annual allocation to the program is a start, but is only half of the $28 million allocated under the bill 2 years ago. RTD's 2023 Zero Fare for Better Air program receives nearly $14 million in reimbursement from the Free Fare program. A proposed study on statewide transit bill also in the bill means hope for expanded permanent and equitable funding, which will be needed as ridership grows and service needs to grow to meet demand. Let us seize this opportunity to transform how we travel. Let us further reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, and let us make the Free Fare program permanent. I'm going to pull up this bill just to see, take a look. Methods to increase the use of transit, concerning methods. It would create a committee that would explore this further, so it's more of a bill that does the research rather than stating that it knows the solution to this right away. And they have to make a proposal in the next 2 years with the goal of a statewide transit pass by 2028, which I think would be really cool. So let's jump back. So I don't know if you have all seen this program. I was able to use it a little bit. The last 2 years, I supplemented travel into the city with light rail, and then was able to get pretty close to the destinations I was going, and then walk the rest of the way. And so it was really cool to see, and especially over these like high ozone areas where we should be having less cars on the road. Public transportation really should be the point of emphasis over like EV subsidies, which are just like very individualistic. It's just cheaper and more accessible to put together a public transportation system. It less cars on the road typically makes the road safer. There's less wear, and we all kind of know that traffic really can be frustrating and add time to your plans. And honestly, if I didn't need to drive as many places, I would be happier. I consider myself a relatively good and safe driver. It's been close to a decade since I got my last ticket or accident of a certain kind. And even then, if there was an option that didn't add more than like 25% more time or 10 to 15 more minutes to my 30-minute commute to Denver, I would be much more interested in choosing it. And even now, I can drive to a light rail station and take that into the city. Uh, but sometimes when I have to add on the cost of the light rail tickets to and from, um, which is still typically more than I would pay in gas, I'd maybe pay around the. It'd probably be about 2 gallons of gas for me to go to Denver and back. So it's a roughly the same cost as public transport, but if the option is that it's free or reduced or um, more accessible, would be an option I'd take more. For the environment's reasons, I actually just like public transportation because while I'm writing it, I'm like able to text people. I'm able to get work done, and so even when I was living in Boulder and would go Boulder to Denver on the really reliable bus system they have, like it was just I didn't really like it was a positive commute because I was able to get things done, or just kick back, or take a cat nap. And I would love to see this expanded. Um, and the idea, I mean, I think US wide, there's a lot we could do with public transportation, with like speed rail and just like larger networks of like there would be less congestion if there was a reliable bus and train route between, let's say, Denver and Colorado Springs and then Fort Collins. Imagine able to get up and down the Rocky Mountain area reliably, and you can park your car at a garage on one side and get to the full other side. And it's also we had reliable public transportation into the mountains for recreation, would I think save people a lot of money and be a place of interest. But like, imagine if in like Pueblo we had a speed rail to like Corpus Christi beach town. Like imagine being a 90-minute bus ride from a speed rail station and then a 5-hour train from the beach. I mean, you having a bad winter week in Colorado, get off work on Friday, pack your bags, get some stuff together, and by 11 or midnight, maybe a little bit later, maybe you leave on Saturday, maybe the logistics, there's a little bit more to it, but having a day or two in a beach town before you have to circle back is the dream. At least I think that's the dream. There's a lot of cool things we can do there. And so I'm interested in tracking this bill, and it'll be at committee to be discussed further. And so you can give public comment and speak out on this issue on February 5th at 1:30 p.m. You can sign up for digital comment, you can send in written comment, and you can also show up to testify in person. So that is our first bill that we're looking at today. So thank you for writing that piece, Jessica. Cool beans. On to the next one. So we finished this part of our agenda, and we're going to pull up and at least do an initial scan of this next document. So this is one of my favorite groups in the state who are now doing more and more with policy and not even being just a speaker for our state, but for wider impact. And let me expand this. I don't need that toolbar. That is the Alliance for Collective Action and the Coalition for a Regenerative Future. So this is their 2024 legislative session policy platform, Coalition for a Regenerative Future. And for those who do not know what the word regenerative means, is it is a system or concept that through the process of it gives back to the process. So while most people know sustainability is, it is a fixed kind of loop that helps maintain itself, a regenerative system not only maintains itself, but it creates more surplus, more abundance, and more potential. And so regenerative policy changes are the future in a way we can, with our investment and our influence, create a world that is able to support more people and go further. So they put out this report using some poll data, and it is apparently 46 pages long, and they meant it as a resource to give to politicians to inspire them, but we're going to just do a quick scan of it. I actually haven't looked at this yet, so this will probably be too much to cover, and alongside some of the other topics we want to get through, and we don't want to necessarily keep going too late tonight. But this is the sections. They break it down into different categories, from regenerative agriculture, workforce, just transition for fossil fuel dependent communities, climate resilience, infrastructure, water, and housing. And so I think we'll just do the introduction together, and then maybe we'll do one of these sections each week for a while. We'll either do that, or throughout this week I'll look at this further, and then I will find more places to highlight. And so I will take a nice little sippy. Okay. So, about the coalition. This policy platform represents the voices of the Coalition for a Regenerative Future, a collaborative alliance of more than 450 member organizations and individuals that represent more than 29,000 members of the Colorado workforce and account for more than $7.3 billion in managed revenue. A complete list of coalition members can be found here. The CRF was founded in April 2020 as a convening of Colorado nonprofit organizations, businesses, academic institutions, government agencies, and individual policy experts, with the goal of envisioning a response to the COVID-19 pandemic that delivered long-term change for the better. Our guiding vision is a regenerative future for Colorado. A future with thriving local economies that meet human needs abundantly and equitably, providing clean air, water, food, and energy for all. In 2021, then Speaker of the Colorado House of Representatives, Alex Garnett, requested the CRF's assistance in developing a list of policy ideas for potential funding from the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. Also known as the COVID-19 stimulus package. Our coalition mobilized to generate more than 200 policy ideas in just 1 week, and the annual tradition of the CRF's crowdsourced policy platform was born. Before each legislative session, CRF members submit their bold transformational policy ideas through a collaborative online forum, then collaborate to refine and rank all submissions. The resulting product is an expansive policy platform that represents the interests of a diverse group of Coloradans. In the past 3 legislative sessions, this unique approach to policy design and advocacy has contributed to the passage of more than 60 new Colorado state laws and directed nearly $1 billion in state funding towards projects and programs aligned with our vision of a regenerative future for Colorado. Most recently, our work contributed to the passage of 22 bills by the Colorado General Assembly during last year, all of which were signed into law by Governor Polis. And then a complete list of the bills, which is in a different part of the document. Studying workforce transition, projects to restore natural stream systems, water conservation in oil and gas. So all different types of things, and then it shows also the budget associated with some of these line items. Go back up for a complete list, go there. What is regenerative? The climate crisis we face was created by the degenerative, extractive, and exploitive systems at play in our lives. Sustainability refers to maintaining and preserving. Anything can be sustained for a certain amount of time, including those harmful systems. But when systems take more than they give, they eventually lead to collapse. Regenerative practices work to heal the damage caused by humanity's overconsumption and create new systems in balance with nature. So healing holistic living systems. Some different areas. Federal funding opportunities. We must balance our budget. What's new in 2024? This year, we expanded our engagement to ensure we are reaching an even broader cross-section of Coloradans and incorporating their perspectives, resulting in a truly unique, expansive policy platform that represents the interests of a diverse group of citizens. We incorporated more coalition brainstorming sessions into our process, partnered with different groups to poll and survey their members, and attend numerous community events to ensure we are hearing from more than the usual suspects when it comes to policy. The result is our most collaborative and inclusive platform to date. We closely follow the state's greenhouse gas roadmap 2.0. Speaking sessions, took that into consideration. Elevated opportunities to participate, and worked with lots of people. The consensus among participants was to phase out oil and gas in tandem with a just transition, cease issuing new permits for these activities, and prioritize equity and human health in all energy policy decisions. Participants stressed that the state should serve as a resource hub for communities aiming to electrify statewide, providing scientific models, accessible programs, and model codes and ordinances. There is a call for electrification and weatherization programs to be more easily accessible. Furthermore, participants endorsed the enhancement of local transportation, advocating for more affordable rides, efficient bus routes, improved bike and pedestrian. Their interests lean towards gaining state support for local governments to enhance community transit that focuses on large statewide and regional projects. Emphasis was placed on considering the electrification of fleets, including trucks and school buses, in addition to making individual electric vehicles more accessible to low-income communities. Lastly, there was widespread support for implementing climate-smart practices on farms and ranches. Participants encouraged collaboration with investment in local community colleges to educate, pilot, and implement climate-smart techniques. So we get the intro, get some of that background, and then each of these sections have what seems to be a background section, a potential funding section, specific call outs, soil health. And so, if this seems like something that you're interested in, you can give a bigger look at this. I will plan to read at this more, find some things to highlight to bring to our next show, but I do not feel like reading out a 46-page document right now. And sometimes that is how the cookie crumbles. Just transition. Perfect. Housing, zoning and land use, Prioritize affordable housing. Cool. Awesome. Good work, everyone on the team there. Thank you for putting that in to the report. And if you want to check them out, they are online as the Coalition for a Regenerative Future. Moving on, we're going to talk some policies. How are we doing on time? My goal for this to be a 90-minute show. We'll probably go for another 20 minutes. Just because I want to touch base on all three of these topics at least briefly and showcase how you can explore the state website. Specifically, let's look at some of the bills I learned about earlier this week. I am subscribed to a number of different orgs whose main purpose is to work on policy and push for a better future for Coloradans. And so I was able to sit in on 2 meetings this week. One on by 350 Colorado that was working on different climate policies, and then one put on by an organization to talk about this bill, which is around universal health care. Now, in the last few years, we've seen interest in passing bills around universal health care here in Colorado, but that ultimately got to committee and did not make it past that. And so this is one of my favorite types of bills, which is an analysis and information gathering bill. So rather than fighting again on some of those points brought up, the idea here is to put some time and money towards the study of these topics, and so our state legislature can better understand the impacts that a bill or a series of bills can have. And so HB 24-1075 is an analysis of universal health care payment system consideration of a statewide universal healthcare payment system, and in connection therewith, creating an advisory task force for the purpose of advising the Colorado School of Public Health in conducting an analysis of draft model legislation concerning a statewide universal healthcare payment system. And so this tasks that School of Public Health to work on a bill and understand the impacts that this will have for Coloradans. And it gives it a due date of October 1st, 2025, which would tee up a bill for 2026 for creating a universal healthcare system. And the amount of friends and people I know of personally who are going through medical emergencies or who have had to make decisions based around medical insurance, for example, staying at a job that you're not passionate about but provides health insurance to your family or self. And just the number of people who can end up with these medical bills impacting them for years to decades. I think we're really selling out in a way to these insurance companies who are making profit and on the backs of medications and procedures and things that should be covered. Other countries have figured out how to cover. Even as a country, we give federal aid to countries that have universal health care, but are ourselves still using a system where if your job does not cover it and you don't get it through your state, could find yourself in one of these tragic situations. And we have some state programs for people depending on age and circumstance. And I think if we were to pass something like this, and if we were to pass the bill that gets brought up through this process, we would be a leader in the US, and who knows what that might lead to others using our study and others implementing similar programs, let alone be this attractive aspect for business and potential here in Colorado. Create the task force to help to figure this out. But the bill is not yet. We don't have a committee date yet, so we're still waiting on the next steps. But we do know that it's going to the Health and Human Services Committee. So if we click on that, which I guess I made a new tab. I got distracted for a second. You can look at the members of this committee. And so, even though we don't know the exact date that this is going to come to committee where you can give public testimony and share your voice that way in personal stories, you can already begin to email the people on this list, like bill sponsor Karen McCormick, who, because she's a bill sponsor, will be in favor, but you can still get her email and let her know that you are in support and that you're thankful that she's bringing this bill forward. And then you can go through this list, get the emails of all these members, and submit your written comments. And we will be watching for when this bill specifically goes to that committee. And that is what we want to talk about on the healthcare side. Environment side, I'm trying to see if there's any bills that are immediately kind of coming through the session. Of course, there's always things moving through the process. If we go committees, if we go over to agricultural, water, and let's go energy and the environment. Fake out there. You can see that their upcoming meeting, this is their past meeting, their upcoming meeting, recycling of single-use electronic smoking devices, that's very specific, but important, and the warrants from Metro Sewage Disposal Districts. Okay. Things that I don't necessarily have a background in, so I will trust that the experts in these fields can do something. Some of the bills I learned about earlier this week I don't think have been introduced yet, but there's going to be ones around phasing out fracking in the next decade so that we can have a date on when we want to stop new fracking wells from happening, so that we're just not constantly pumping gas and we can start to build that infrastructure change. I believe this one, well, this one says introduced soon, is about tax exemption status for old wells. And this will be Representative Kathy Kipp, Senator Faith Winter. Apparently, you can get a tax exemption for an old well, stripper wells, and that means that when those wells are done, the cost to help cover the cleanup is put on local communities. So let's see. So since 1977, wells that produced less than 15 barrels of oil, or 90,000 cubic feet of natural gas, commonly called stripper wells, have been exempt from the severance tax in Colorado. In Colorado, 50% of all oil wells and 68% of all gas wells qualify for the stripper well exemption, together representing 12% of all oil and gas. Oil and gas in 2022, valued at $4.2 billion, was produced from stripper wells without being subject to severance tax under current laws. $4.2 billion. Okay, stripper wells are typically older wells, not subject to any of the right protections of newer wells, and are known to emit more pollutants per unit of production. Naturally, there's this analysis shows that stripper oil wells emit 50% of pollutants while producing only 6% of oil and gas. This bill ensures all operators are paying their fair share, ending a practice of giving special treatment to some operators. They should not be subsidized to remain in business if they cannot afford the cost of doing business. And states that the presumed purpose of the stripper well exemption was to encourage continued production from stripper wells during the energy crisis in the 1970s. However, the audit concludes that in modern times, this exemption is unlikely to be significant enough to keep wells open when prices are low and the wells operating at a loss. Training for workers are in place. Initially, a study on workforce transition will assess how skills can be transferred to existing and emerging industries. And so there's a part about transitioning people who work on these wells. And I mean, if they're polluting more and they're making less, but they're still making billions of dollars, let's have them pay money to local communities. So that is just one environmental bill that will be coming through. I'll keep you all informed. I gotta work on a working document where we track some of the bills that come through our attention in our pipeline is my goal. So look for that in the next week or two, is a document highlighting some of the bills and ways you can get involved. And then let's just see, when we click bills, what are the most accessed bills? Cause required for eviction of residential tenant. Prohibit landscaping practices for water conservation. And prohibit residential occupancy limits. So 2 housing bills and a landscaping water bill. Prohibit landscaping practices for water conservation. Interesting. I'm kind of more interested in these housing ones. I saw some news on this one, and this one is near and dear. Like, occupancy limits come from a not good past of housing discrimination. So let's take a look at these housing bills. I had housing on the agenda, so before we turn out tonight, let's take a look at some housing bills. Cause required for eviction of residential tenant. Prime sponsors: Javier Mabry, my bad, Monica Duran, Julie Gonzalez, and Nick Henriksen. This is going to the Transportation, Housing, and Local Government, and it concerns protections for residential tenants and, in connection therewith, requiring cause for the eviction of a residential tenant. The bill prohibits a landlord from evicting a residential tenant unless the landlord has a cause for eviction. Cause exists only when, and then it lists, okay. A tenant or lessee is guilty of an unlawful detention of real property under certain circumstances. or condition exists constituting grounds for a no-fault eviction. Demolition or conversion of the premises. So it lays out what are some of the causes that are fine for eviction, but creates protections for renters and rental security. Landlord proceeds with no fault eviction in violation of certain notices or other restrictions must provide relocation assistance to the tenant in the amount of 2 months' rent plus one additional month of rent if any of the following individuals reside in the residential premises. A kid or elderly person, individual whose income is no greater than 8% of the area median income, or individual with disability. In Islam, removal tenant and may assert the landlord's violation as an affirmative defense to an eviction proceeding. Current law allows a tenant to terminate a tenancy by serving written notice to the landlord without a prescribed time period based on the length of tenancy. For the purpose of such notices, okay. The bill eliminates these provisions. And when does this go to committee? Actually, I should go here. On Tuesday. So, if you're interested in speaking out on a cause required for eviction of residential tenant, and getting more involved, you can reach out to these prime sponsors, and you can schedule into your schedule. Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. I imagine it's the only thing on the agenda for the day, and it'll probably go a few hours. If I'm being honest, I imagine there'll be a bunch of renters who have their stories of times they were evicted without cause and that the disturbance that put on them, their families, and their work. And on the flip side, there's going to be people who own property who are going to be there speaking out on, I guess, renters who have been problematic and their journey to get rid of them and how important it is that they're able to collect rent. It'll be interesting to watch. And I will put this on the list of things I track for next week. And then let's just look at this other bill. Prohibit residential occupancy limits concerning residential occupancy limits. Prime sponsors Manny Ruinel, Javier Mabry, Tony Exum, and Julie Gonzalez. This bill prohibits local governments from enacting or enforcing residential occupancy limits unless those limits are tied to a minimum square footage per person requirement that is necessary to regulate safety, health, and welfare. So, introduced and I thought this day didn't have anything else going on. Tuesday. Wait a second. Go here. Oh, this is earlier in the day. So upon adjournment is typically, earlier in the day. Adjournment is the general session. So the general session typically starts around 9 a.m. and is where bills are introduced. There's typically the sponsors will say something on the bill. Things will move through. Bills already passed at committees will be voted on. Sometimes there are holidays and other things that happen, and on those lobby days, you can pull people from the general session to try to talk to them, and lobbyists are actually constantly outside the general session seeing who they need to talk to or influence. And so 2 important bills around housing on Tuesday. And just speaking from my own personal background, in Boulder, and how occupancy limits have made it harder for young people to live in a balanced way. Because even if a place has 4 bedrooms, there is an occupancy limits that no more than 3 unrelated people can live there. And so you either get these situations where leasing companies, renting companies kind of strong arm and manipulate and push you to only send 3 people to put on the lease, and they're like see no evil, hear no evil around the 4th person being there, which can then lead to a situation where if that 4th person gets into an argument with technically any of the 3 roommates, isn't actually like protected in their renting rights. And also creates a system where the rent goes up, and one of the options typically you would have to be able to still live somewhere is sharing a room or sharing space. And these options just come off the table, which impacts those of less privilege more. And typically the pushback is like, well, if more people live there, there's going to be more cars on the street and less places to park. Or if more people live there, they're more likely to get rowdy and have a big party. And it's these like superficial reasons that push back. And technically the history of these laws, these occupancy limit laws, have a history in being very anti-women, and the women's rights movements, because they didn't want women living together and having kind of this own pathway to freedom and possibility. In some areas, the rhetoric was around like brothels and sex work, but the actual impact of not being able to live with and create your own community and making community based off blood connection and blood relation just has these wider impacts of disadvantaged communities. So Tuesday will be a day to watch. I will this weekend be working on emails personally to the committee members around some of these bills, exercising my voice. And that was the last thing we had today. Stream complete, yo. Look at that. So that was chill. We went a little bit over our 90-minute estimate. Part of that was due to I had to record a small section twice, but I think this went well. We are learning more about bills. We're staying informed, tracking the news. We are setting goals for the show itself and predictions. These next few weeks, that gives me a roadmap for these next few weeks in what needs to be done to meet those predictions and goals, which will include reaching out to politicians, reaching out to lobby groups, doing increased marketing and outreach. And so thank you all for watching. Until next time, I hope you stay healthy. I hope you stay well. Have a good all weekend. And if there are things that you want to see covered, we have our outreach at communitydriven.group email. Let me throw that back up. We have this email where you can reach out to us if there's a policy topic you want us to cover. It doesn't help as much as you think it does, Google, but thank you. I just want to highlight it for the audience. Thanks Google. Is that? We're just gonna bold this. If this is a show that you want to see continued support of, believe in the vision, and are interested in learning more about what we're up to and how you can support, we have our website, communitydriven.group.com. And on our website, you can learn more about us and our journey and what we're trying to accomplish. And if you are super gung-ho about what you see here and ways you can support us, we have our GoFundMe investment page where you can become someone who owns a percentage of our path and our journey, and through this page can support us in developing more media, tools, and lifting up positive impact leaders. This will also be a focus for us in this next month. Now that we have this show and even more videos going live through our YouTube page, I think it's a great time to return to our fundraising efforts to showcase what we're able to get done together. So, thank you for watching. See you next Friday.